Masterclass 4. Hip-hop's influential street mentality propagation and criminal link to the black identity reinforcement. This regards exploration of hip-hop's reinforcing misconceptions of blackness, perpetuating criminal belief systems linked to the black identity, and influencing victimization entrapment. It advances disenfranchisement, confusion about what blackness entails. We're discussing the spiritually demonic influence of hip-hop's criminal exaltation and popularizing crime culture, which results with victimization entrapment by way of criminal advocacy influence. It's an advancement of misleadership that influences community self-destruction, through reinforcing criminal associations with blackness, a propagation of criminal identities, exaltation of career criminality, and dispensation of criminal belief system mesmerization, where it deepens one's desire for crime. In spiritual terms, it's a rebellion that causes ruin. These are hip-hop's irrefutable contributions to the hypnotic indoctrination of black minds that disrupt Black America's future. This lecture regards hip-hop's subgenre gangster rap, a development of the street mentality, the street nigga, which, in other words, is a product of the criminal mind that possesses criminal behavior exploitation for profit. In order to understand this discussion, we must first explain the root of hip-hop's gangster rap, the items responsible for its manifestation. These items are responsible for the transgressive nature, the craftily perverted tongue of a gangster rap artist. Understanding these items help us broaden our understanding of gangster rap's current condition. Gangster rap's root that developed its perverted state consists of 4 items. Item 1, the street nigga, the apex of criminal identities. Item 2, the street mentality, an urban center criminal-based mindset. Item 3, the urban center's environmental criminal infestation. And Item 4, criminal normality, the result of criminal infestation, criminal identities, and criminal minds that produce action. Once again, gangster rap, a lyrical manifestation of the criminal mind, is a construct of the street mentality. The street mentality is the root of gangster rap's spiritually demonic influence. You must first understand the term, street nigga, a criminal identity of indoctrination that misdirects one's life trajectory, in order to understand this discussion. Let's dissect the term and give an explanation for the word, street. Let's give it context for better visualization. When the ghetto says, "I'm in the streets," or, "they on some street shit," it's not a specific location reference, but a reference to crime. In the ghetto, street is a reference to criminal activity, Black America's criminal normality, repeated criminal offenses that have been normalized in the ghetto. When one says, "I'm in the streets," he's indirectly saying, "I'm involved in crime." There's a widely accepted modernized redefinition of the word, nigga, that differs from its origins. Nigga, from the modern black's perspective, is gender-specific and normally interchangeable with male. The street nigga, an indoctrinating criminal identity that links crime to blackness, which misdirects the youth, is a construct of the street mentality. The street mentality, an urban center criminal-based mindset, influences criminal action, adherence to criminal doctrines, misconceptions of blackness, and disenfranchisement. Disenfranchisement, in terms of confusion about what blackness entails. The term suggests that by nature blacks are criminals. The street mentality's criminal ideology, a criminal belief system built by criminal enterprises, dictates one's life trajectory, setting one onto the criminal path. The term street nigga is a redefining of blackness, linking crime to the black identity, resulting in indoctrination. It's a psychologically self-destructive term for criminal exaltation. Criminal exaltation by street niggas is an attempt to exalt oneself. Career criminality exaltation is an attempt to exalt oneself. Criminal advocacy exaltation is an attempt to exalt oneself. Criminal identity exaltation is an attempt to exalt oneself. The term street nigga, many profess to be the most authentic version of the black male, adds gravity to the criminal path due to receiving glory. In representing status and rank, street nigga is defined by one who associates crime with the black identity. It's defined by one in possession of a mindset that's inconsistent with societal conformity. This societal conformity inconsistency is due to misconceptions of blackness, identity disenfranchisement, where it's believed that improperness represents blackness. Improperness, as in improper behavior, improper mannerism, and improper communication, is perceived by the street nigga as specific attributes of blackness. He also believes proper behavior, proper mannerism, and proper communication are specific attributes of whiteness. In other words, this societal conformity inconsistency is resistance to whiteness, behaving improperly to fulfill what one believes to be his blackness. The street nigga term, in addition to indoctrination, influences a criminal pursuit to fulfill what one believes to be his purpose. A street nigga, in adherence to criminal ideology, a criminal belief system where it's thought that crime is linked to blackness, crime is a means of resolution, and poverty justifies crimes, is an indulgent of Black America's criminal normalcy in terms of repeated criminal offenses that have been normalized in Black America. It's a criminal identity that influences criminal continuums, a constant criminal state of being with criminal execution preparedness, and criminal opportunism, as one pursues illegalities in an attempt to fulfill what he believes to be his purpose. It possesses, not only disenfranchisement, but a spiritually demonic influence linked to a criminal belief system that mentally corrupts. A spiritually demonic influence that leads one to violate holy covenants, perceiving evil as good and good as evil, by way of demonic strongholds. Demonic strongholds linked to criminal belief system mesmerization, where evil's glorification influences appeal. A spiritually demonic influence that bears endurance for criminal activity and a desire to commit crime till total self-destruction. This is what hip-hop consists of, a popularizing crime culture through crime exaltation and criminal advocacy influence, directing many to illegalities that manifest self-destruction. Gangster rap results with victimization entrapment by criminal advocacy influence, where one contributes to the negative consequence of one's actions, as it promotes a criminal path that brings about one's self-destruction. It reflects the criminal state of Black America, exacerbating criminality, advancing community self-destruction. The street nigga, through a redefinition of blackness, contributes to indoctrination in several instances, redefining blackness with a criminal association, instituting crime as a means of resolution, attributing improperness to blackness, popularizing criminal exaltation, adhering to criminal ideology, and being the standard for Black masses. These are criminal standards set for Black masses to achieve to validate their blackness for social embracement. Black America's criminal normality, environmental criminal infestation, and gang regulation of Black communities historically evokes the false idea that the most authentic version of blackness is the street nigga, resulting with these criminal standards. And hip-hop is the same. In order to be a street nigga, you have to be a criminal. One professing to be a street nigga professes to possess behavior consistent with constitutional lawbreaking. There's no such thing as being a street nigga, but not a criminal. In order to be a street nigga, you must possess a criminal history. It's not achieved through breaking the law once, but through maintaining a consistent lawbreaking application, which constructs street credibility. Street credibility is defined by having a criminal history others can vouch for. Street credibility is not just about a reputation, but a reputation for crime. And it's retained through a constant criminal state of being. A street nigga, according to the ghetto, is a gang affiliate, drug dealer, pimp, player, mac, and anyone who commits to a criminal lifestyle. Everyone knows about gang members and drug dealers. Let me explain pimps, players, and macs so you can better understand who and what entered the music industry, contributing to its current conditions. Those who entered changed the earlier state of hip-hop into what we now know as gangster rap. The pimps, players, and macs are in possession of the street mentality and are well accustomed to Black America's criminal normalcy and popularizing crime culture. They are products of a criminal environment, where infidelities are glorified and exalted. In other words, pimping, playering, and macking are rampant in Black culture, complicating Black relationships, adding to paranoia and distrust. The same for prostitution, which is also rampant. These entities are in possession of a perception that's widespread. Now consider everything mentioned above in addition to the statistics. Statically speaking, Black Americans, out of all demographics, are least likely to succeed in a relationship. They're also, out of all demographics, least likely to unify as a race group. And that's more so because of Black culture, which is influenced by the street mentality, than anything else. Blacks, failing to take accountability, have a tendency to blame whites for cultural dysfunctionality. But it's the street mentality that heavily influences Black culture that is responsible. Black America's popularizing crime culture is also a popularizing immorality culture, breeding prostitutes, players, pimps, and macs that are unfit for relationships, bringing about its own self-destruction. And most are too ashamed to take accountability. Pimps, players, macs, gang affiliates, drug dealers, and prostitutes are all extensions of the street mentality, as well as gangster rap. On average, gang affiliates and drug dealers tend to also be pimps, players, and macs. There are also pimps, players, and macs who refuse involvement with anything outside of chasing women, yet support all conduct of the streets, including criminal policies and procedures. The pimp is a constitutional lawbreaker due to prostitution and sex trafficking being a crime. The player and mac are not always constitutional lawbreakers, but are in violation of spiritual covenants, being covetous, adulterous, and deceptive. First and foremost, the player and mac are similar in nature, having similar values and characteristics. In a way, they're self-centered, detached from their victims. Their pursuit of women is merely a game played with a bit of self-constructed sociopathy, as they're inconsiderate towards emotional trauma linked to heartbreak, the condition most women experience, being deceived, manipulated, sexually and financially exploited, then betrayed. Women are lured into these fantasies that end in betrayal. And it's done so intentionally. After participation in countless scandalous affairs, seeing how far women are willing to go to betray their significant other, they have learned to distrust the average woman. They have seen a side of women most do not see. And they consider nearly all women seducible, adulterers behind a mask, who simply need unmasking and sexual liberation from a guy of their fantasy. The player and mac consider themselves to be that guy, and in most cases, they are. They're considered manifestations of karma, as they are role reversed, possessing feminine qualities, seeking provisions from women amid sexual exploitation, and cheating simultaneously, which is the same path for most women. Just like women, they've adapted to character shape-shifting, expressing specifically different qualities to fit the specific needs of different women. Being referenced as a mac is to be referenced as someone who possesses the gift of gab and is intimate with a lot of women simultaneously. To be referenced as a player is to be referenced as someone who is intimate with several women simultaneously. Some women accept their promiscuity and have agreed to the terms and conditions, whereas others have not. In fact, players and macs are popular for their promiscuity, amongst all genders. They're envied in the ghetto. They're discreetly overindulgent in hypersexuality. They're flirtatiously manipulative, indirectly narcissistic, yet are deceptively charming, loving, kind, and nice with a dash of sociopathy. They invest in fabrications, willing to say anything that gets them closer to exploitation. Breaking a woman's heart is simply a byproduct of the game. They don't want to, but they have to in order to continue. And they must continue. They're enslaved to their own game out of thrill, addiction, and satiability. They're convinced women will eventually do the same to them anyways, so there's no desire for quitting. Their ultimate goal is to use women for the exploitation of sex, money, valuables, and resources. The player and max exploitation is not enforced on a woman. They are not demanding a woman to give them anything. That's not how they operate. They use their attraction, gift of gab, or endowment to seduce women into catering to their lifestyle. And in most cases, they are successful. Women who refuse to cater to their lifestyle often wind up with one-night stands, though sexual exploration could continue till they're replaced by someone who will. They're going to deal with her as she wants to be dealt with, be the guy she wants him to be, play her game until the goal is complete. Exploiting women for sex, money, valuables, and resources are key principles to an authentic pimp, player, and mac. And their pursuit for success is uncancelable, as women not providing are deemed useless and eventually left. They never do anything for a woman who isn't already doing twice as much for them, as they expect for a woman to attempt to take advantage of them. Therefore, it's not a provided opportunity and they're prepared to shut that down immediately. They keep track of what they do for others, making sure what they give is measured. The pimp's journey differs from the players and macs. Their goals are the same, but the approach is different. The pimp is in an actual contractual agreement with the prostitute, whether verbal or written. Their relationship is mutually agreed upon. The pimp does not force his way into a prostitute's life. She wants him around. He makes her feel safe. He makes her feel protected. He has his strengths. And there's a high probability they're sexually involved with each other. You have to understand that most prostitutes want to prostitute for steady income, whereas others may be battling addiction, fighting to survive, fighting depression, and simply using prostitution as a means to succeed and escape. In fact, most prostitutes indulge in independent prostitution, where they govern themselves and may eventually solicit the services of a pimp, due to the violent dangers of their environment. Modern-day pimps differ from pimps in the past, due to women's fierce independence and level of awareness. Despite movies showing pimps as these verbally, physically abusive tyrants, that's not exactly what's happening. Women gravitate towards the pimp for a reason. He knows how to speak to women. And this is not to say that all know how to speak to women. He's attractive, possesses the gift of gab, well endowed, and potentially a gangster. He's not just smacking women. The pimp has a reputation for being violent with men, in some cases terrorizing solicitors in the event the deal isn't worked out smoothly. If forced to, he will beat, berate, rob, and murder a solicitor. With the gift of gab, normally, he's able to transition a skeptic solicitor into one of certainty. A pimp will do whatever deemed necessary to get the point across. And the point he's trying to make is to not play with his patience, intelligence, or money. He's willing to show anyone that he's not the one to play with. He has the street mentality and is the product of a criminal environment. You have to understand that your life is at risk in the event a prostitute has a pimp, since he's prone to be violent the minute his business is threatened. Any attempts to betray the prostitute will lead to a solicitor being subject to a pimp that takes the law into his own hands. The pimp is taking the woman seriously. The player doesn't take these women seriously. If the woman called the player and said, "Hey, my ex-boyfriend just whooped my ass," the player's gonna say, "Damn, that's messed up. Do you wanna go and hang out tonight?" If the woman called the pimp and said, "Hey, a dude just came over and beat and raped me," it's a high probability they'll conspire to lure the man into a setup, have him beaten, robbed, and potentially killed. This is the reason why pimps, players, and macs are considered to be street niggas, due to possessing a street mentality. Gang affiliates and drug dealers aren't the only ones envied in the ghetto. Pimps, players, and macs are also envied. Pimps, players, and macs are also linked to the criminal standard black youth are to achieve. Many blacks grow up aspiring to achieve promiscuity, wearing it as a status symbol, whether male or female. It has trended in the ghetto, increasing the gap between black men and women for decades. In fact, pimps, players, and macs are the ones who popularized blatant disrespect for black women, referring to them as bitches, whores, hoes, rats, etc. Only afterwards did black women begin to refer to themselves as the same thing. Once again, we're getting back to hip-hop's influential street mentality propagation and criminal link to the black identity reinforcement. You have to understand who and what is a street nigga to entirely make sense of this discussion. Exploration of the street mentality allows for contextualization of not only hip-hop's current condition, but the current state of lower-class black communities. When you investigate lower-class black communities in totality, you see high saturations of gangs, drugs, pimps, players, macs, career criminality, high incarceration and murder rates. It's no coincidence that the general findings of an investigation into hip-hop are high saturations of gangs, drugs, pimps, players, macs, career criminality, high incarceration and murder rates. Think of the number of rappers that have been murdered all around America over the course of hip-hop's duration. Think of the number of rappers that have been imprisoned over the course of hip-hop's duration. Think of the ambush-styled murder of rapper Julio Fulio. Think of the second-degree murder charge and life sentence handed to rapper C Murder, who till this day professes to be innocent. There's an old hip-hop saying that surfaced in the 90s. That saying is, the rap game is just like the dope game. This saying, according to the streets, is not only based on the come up, the amount of fast money one could make, but it suggests that the conditions of the music industry, in terms of gangster rap, are similar in nature to the ghetto. And that the music industry, in terms of gangster rap, is not only a product of the ghetto, but the ghetto itself. The saying highlights the dangerous conditions of the rap industry. To broaden your understanding of what it is I'm attempting to convey, visualize the rap group Bloods and Crips from the early 1990s, who released an album titled, Bangin' on Wax. This group, allegedly, according to reports and their own confession, was active gang members from Compton, Watts, and Long Beach, California. Their album, Bangin' on Wax, was oversaturated with gang violence, murder, and criminal activity. This group allegedly, according to reports and their own admission, brought active gang warfare and criminal activity to hip-hop's gangster rap genre. And they were not alone. The West Coast at that time was filled with street niggas who transitioned from the streets into the music industry as gangster rappers. Gangster rappers who, in all actuality, were real gang members, promoting violence, murder, drug trafficking, pimping, playering, macking, and various criminal identities that linked crime to blackness. They ushered in a new era of hip-hop, the gangster rap era. This is important to know since drug dealers, gang affiliates, pimps, players, macs, and career criminals largely infiltrated the music industry, bringing in their criminal lifestyle, achieving domination through the exploitation of criminal behavior for mere profit. This is why rap music tends to revolve around criminal activity. Crime is being used to validate their blackness, their authenticity, and street certifications. One achieving this criminal standard, a standard set for black masses, receives glory. Robbers are reverenced in the ghetto due to overcoming poverty attempts. Gang bangers are reverenced in the ghetto due to overcoming threatening opposition. This applies to drug traffickers. Distributing drugs is seen as a response to poverty. This applies to violent offenders. Violence is seen as a response to a hostile environment. The street nigga is revered and glorified when success in crime is established in an attempt to overcome a poverty-stricken, hostile environment. Artists lyrically profess their crimes, not merely for street credibility, but to enlarge their following, glorification, and revenue. In order for a gangster rap artist to continue generating revenue, crime in the ghetto must continue for an artist to maintain his authenticity. The gangster rapper, a street nigga, is merely a reflection of a criminal environment, the result of gang takeovers, where criminal enterprises seized and regulated black communities, implementing criminal practices and recruiting the youth for decades. Established criminal belief systems, adhered to by street niggas within these environments, entered the music industry, resulting in an exacerbation of crime and rap's current condition. The rap industry is merely a reflection of the street nigga and the criminal environment he comes from. Many gangster rap artists, despite being successful, continue to operate within the terms and conditions of criminal doctrines. Gang organizations are now masked as rap groups, and gang affiliates are now masked as gangster rap artists. They possess the street mentality, a criminal-based mindset, adhering to criminal policies and criminal proceedings. These are criminal guiding precepts that were purposed for the furtherance of a gang, and they involve crime. You have to understand that a real street nigga's transition into the music industry is what got us to where we are right now, where hip-hop propagates the street mentality and reinforces the idea that crime is linked to the black identity. Typical rap lyrics between the early 1990s and the year 2025 possess gang affiliation admissions, contributions of gang members who entered the rap industry and lyrically exalted gangs. Typical rap lyrics between the early 1990s and the year 2025 possess drug trafficking admissions, contributions of drug dealers who entered the rap industry and lyrically exalted drug trafficking. Typical rap music between the early 1990s and the year 2025 possesses career criminality admissions, contributions of criminals who entered the rap industry and lyrically exalted criminality. Typical rap music between the early 1990s and the year 2025 possesses pimping, playering, and macking admissions, contributions of pimps, players, and macs who entered the rap industry and lyrically exalted sexual exploitation. In fact, pimps, players, and macs brought into the rap industry blatant disrespect for black women, labeling them hoes, rats, whores, and bitches, exposing their infidelities and tarnishing their names. One of the most significantly repeated questions of the rap industry is, who is the realist rapper? In some cases, realist is interchangeable with honesty. But in most cases, realist relates to a criminal association with blackness, achieving a criminal standard, and reporting it lyrically in music. Gangster rap not only became a thing, but it began its reign over several hip-hop genres. It reached a point where hip-hop's diversity spectrum vanished. Gangster rap, due to certified street niggas becoming rap artists, made the music industry intensively dangerous and in reflection of a criminal environment. The street mentality accompanied most artists on their music journey, and that resulted in violence as a criminal-based mindset was utilized to address their problems, as violent gang rituals were utilized to address the potential beefs. Iconic rappers engaged in fights, shootouts, attempted murder, murder for hire, first-degree murder, kidnapping, rape, and robbery. The take the law into your own hands approach is instinctive for a real nigga that becomes a rap artist. Using criminal ideology to determine one's choices is also instinctive, despite being an artist. The street nigga, who's a rap artist, remains governed by his indoctrination. He has very limited options to choose from due to his ignorance. The East and West Coast War, mainly between Pac and Biggie, was simply two record labels killing in the streets, according to Keefe D. Hip-hop became a tool to escape poverty and desperation. Many escaped the criminal norms of the ghetto, whereas others ushered in the criminal norms of the streets into the music industry. Disenfranchisement was being propagated. The street mentality was being propagated. Across the airwaves, radio, TV, satellite, even books, movies, and magazines were certified street niggas now in the spotlight. And there in the spotlight, out of ignorance, they lifted up a spiritually demonic influence, exalting a criminal identity, an influence that manipulated diverse audiences and led many to victimization entrapment by criminal advocacy. Violent and aggressive lyrics, according to several studies, affect listeners negatively, increasing their aggressive thoughts and hostility. Music has the natural tendency to evoke strong emotions. One is influenced to adopt behaviors and feelings associated with the music one listens to. In other words, the anger, violence, and criminal behavior associated with gangster rap has a tendency to influence the listener. The listener can take on the same mindset of the music. For example, expressing gang affiliation, glorifying drug trafficking, and promoting violence in a song is gravitating to a listener to a point where he'll begin to identify with the same beliefs. It's as if the music itself, by way of seduction, influences indoctrination and has the potential to indoctrinate. A listening audience is not only chanting along with a song out of mere entertainment, but are chanting along with a song out of sharing a criminal identity and advocacy of a criminal belief system, especially those who are a product of a criminal environment. But here's where disenfranchisement surfaces. To believe that gangster rap represents who we are, that the rapper represents blackness, is to believe there's a criminal association with blackness. If the rapper who is a criminal is representation for blackness, then criminality is representation for blackness. Rappers perpetuate the idea that the street nigga is the authentic version of the black male and is who and what a black man is supposed to be, and that influences black children, driving them to crime. Due to indoctrination, he promotes the false idea that crime is linked to blackness, and to achieve blackness one must pursue and commit crime. He promotes the false idea that achieving these criminal standards certifies one's blackness and makes one worthy of social embracement. He promotes the false idea that not committing crimes, nor adhering to criminal policies, takes away from one's black authenticity. He promotes the false idea that the street nigga, one who is a criminal, is the most authentic version of the black male and one deserving of social embracement. Many believe black men should look, dress, and act like a street nigga, who in all actuality acts like a criminal. Hip-hop's influential street mentality propagation and criminal link to the black identity reinforcement happens due to street niggas entering hip-hop in massive waves, dominating hip-hop, channeling self-destructive violence, unlawfulness, improperness, and various criminal lifestyles. The street nigga entered the industry and reconstructed his criminal environment there, despite possessing fame and wealth. He exalted ignorance over intelligence, wickedness over holiness, money over faith. To imitate rap artists is to imitate criminals, since many rap artists, specifically gangster rappers, are criminals. To follow rap artists is to follow criminals, since many rap artists, specifically gangster rappers, are criminals. If you are influenced by gangster rap, you are influenced by criminals, since gangster rap artists are street niggas who profess to be criminals. They led many to achieve a criminal standard. Audiences across the globe, all races, have begun to imitate street niggas who were propped up as the face of the black race. The impact of today's version of hip-hop, and its reinforcing stereotypes that link crime to blackness, has caused many to lean towards crime. It has disenfranchised many. Because of hip-hop, violence, immorality, and lawlessness is escalating. Listeners are encouraged to be a street nigga, a pimp, player, mac, drug dealer, gang affiliate, career criminal, to adopt criminal ideology and live a criminal lifestyle. We're talking about an eerily spiritually demonic influence released by the street mentality that gives glory to things that transgress spiritual covenants. There's a hip-hop influential street mentality propagation and criminal link to the black identity reinforcement due to the street niggas' transition to hip-hop. The street niggas then, as gangster rap artists, were able to perpetuate every criminalistic stereotype of the black male. He glorified drug dealing, gang affiliation, pimping, playering, macking, shootings, fighting, robbery and murder all through his music, channeling death, channeling destruction, channeling unlawfulness, bragging about a criminal lifestyle one gives glory. He gave evil appeal, made it exciting and interesting, advancing a popularizing crime culture, strengthening gravity to a criminal path. The rapper is portraying a criminal lifestyle for monetary purposes and at the expense of black lives. He understands his influence misleads the masses, but due to a criminal identity he finds that acceptable. A lot of us are modeling and imitating even the fashion of a hip-hop artist. You have to understand, where is that coming from? When we're talking about who set the fashion trends in the ghettos, we are talking about the drug dealers. If you model yourself after a gangster rap artist, the gangster rapper, who's a street nigga, models himself after the drug dealers in the ghetto. So, in all actuality, if you're modeling after a hip-hop artist, you are modeling after a drug dealer, which is a criminal.